Great, thank you, Mandalee, and welcome everybody. We're going to be sharing the screen in just a second, and thank you very much, Greg. So today we're here together to learn about accelerated learning approaches, adult dual enrollment. This webinar is the last in our accelerated learning approaches series. We have designed the webinar in response to participants' interest in learning more about programs that are implementing different approaches. In this case, adult dual enrollment, and also to learn about experiences as they happened from the field, so within their local contexts. Today, you'll have the opportunity to hear from our guest discussants from both San Joaquin Delta College and Stockton School for Adults. I think we also have Lodi School for Adults on the team. And they're going to be sharing about their dual enrollment efforts, and in particular about the DART program. Before we begin, I'm going to do some brief introductions. I'm going to start with both Greg and I. Next slide, please, Greg. Thank you. Many of you already know us here, but we are facilitating from WestEd. We have the pleasure of helping to provide technical assistance and support to the adult education field through our work with CAPE. I'm Dr. Lisa Lefevre. I'm a senior program associate at WestEd, and I'm joined by my colleague, who I'll let introduce himself. Greg?
Yes, thanks, Lisa. Hi, all. My name is Greg Hill Jr. I am a senior research associate at WestEd. I focus predominantly on, most of my work is in adult education, post-secondary pathways, use of data, strategic planning. Really excited you're here, really excited to learn more about the program, the dual enrollment program Dr. Malloy and the rest of your team is put into place. And yeah, I just put a little something in chat that just asks you to say a thing about yourselves as we kind of move forward. And so feel free to do that as we go on to the next slides. Today, our agenda is, thanks, Nia.
Well, Greg, I just wanted to quickly just do a few more introductions before we move on.
Yes,
For 1 second.
Oh, forgive me. Yes.
No worries, no worries. I wanted to actually say we're really excited and echo you to hear from our discussants today, and we're going to be giving them a chance to introduce themselves right before we launch into the conversation. But yes, you're right. We do have Dr. Heather Malloy. The team is Vivi Sinu, Laura Manieles, and Kong Nguyen. We'd like to also recognize the CAPE team. We have Myra Diaz and Cora Rainey and the CDE team, Dr. Zachary, Carolyn Zachary, Diana Batista, and of course, Neil Kelly, who is on the line today too. They support the work and support that's given to ensure quality adult education. Neil, thank you for always being part of this series. We've enjoyed having you on board too. And we'd also like to thank SCOE Tab, Mandalee in particular, who is here with us today, and Holly. They always make things run smoothly for us. So with that, I'll kick it back over to Greg. And my apologies to our discussants. If I did not say your name correctly, please correct me as we go along and when you do introductions again. So, Greg.
Thanks, Lisa. Our agenda today is pretty light. It's really designed to showcase really Heather and her team's work. But our agenda topics are here, so we've gone through our welcome. We'll have a brief summary of what adult dual enrollment is, and then more or less turn it over to hear from our presenters today, and then we'll engage in a whole group discussion before we close at the end of it. Our goals for today are to help increase insight into current adult dual enrollment programs out there, to provide an opportunity to discuss the aspects that are most germane and important to you, and have been shown to be really successful in some of these programs. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Laura. And then finally, to make opportunity to, this is providing us an opportunity to make connections and learn and to share. So I think everyone on the call more or less knows what adult dual enrollment is, but it is worth just taking a minute to make sure that we're using the same, that we mean the same thing when we say adult dual enrollment. So adult dual enrollment is really not from a legislative, it's the same thing legislatively as dual enrollment is for any high school student in the state of California. Um, uh, all it effectively, or not all of it, what it does is it effectively allows students who are enrolled in high school diploma programs, those enrolled in high school diploma programs to participate in community college courses for free, meaning no tuition, although there could be fees depending on the program. Sorry, there. I'm getting some notes about my volume. Is that better or worse? About the same? Okay, good. So anyway, moving forward. But of course, it has myriad benefits, not the least of which is that it helps to broaden educational access and opportunities to learn more about what educational and occupational paths are available within the larger region. You can, of course, click on these links once we make these available to find the language from the Senate Bill SB 554, which is what authorizes it for use with adult populations. And CAPE also has provided a few resources here, and I think they're also on the CAPE website that you can use to learn more. You can also just reach out to us and we'll be glad to share them. All right, so let's move over to this next slide here. And Lisa, do you want to pick it up? And
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Greg. And thanks again, everyone, for joining us here. We're going to be launching into our discussion with our guest speakers today. And I'll be asking our guests to just take a moment. Let's run through and introduce yourselves to everybody here. And also keep in mind that this is a small group, so it's an open discussion. Feel free to, come off mute whenever there's a moment or a question or a thought. So I'm going to ask Dr. Heather Malloy to introduce herself, and then you can popcorn it to the team.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. So yes, I am Dr. Heather Malloy. I have serving currently as the project manager of now San Joaquin Adult Education Consortium, formerly Delta Sierra Adult Education Alliance. I have been a part of CAPE for, I believe I'm going into my 9th year. I have served in a variety of different roles, from being the AEBG coordinator to now currently the project manager, and now serving also as the co-director of the consortium. Just to give you a little bit of background, I have over 20 plus years of working from anywhere between preschool age to high school age to college and beyond age students in a variety of different roles. I specifically have worked and build multiple different programs when it comes to our English language learners. I was also a basic skills teacher and an ESL instructor for not only the private sector, but also for San Joaquin Delta College. And it was my doctoral work where I took an interest in looking at the returning adult and looking at the non-traditional and traditional learner. And I'm really excited to be here. I will allow for my other team members to come off screen and kind of share. I consider them my family and my partners in crime. And I greatly appreciate it, because what we have been able to create would not have been able to be done without the people in this room. So I'm also going to popcorn it off to our Dean of Dual Enrollment, Regional Education and Distance Ed, Vivi Sanu. So go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Vivi Sinu. I'm Dean of Regional and Distance Education, Dual Enrollment, and Professional Development at Delta College. Great to be here with.
Thank you, Heather and Vivi. And we also have Laura and Kong on the line. Laura.
And Leslie, too.
And Leslie. Thank you. And Leslie.
Hi, everybody. My name is Laura Magallanes. I am one of the resource specialists here at San Joaquin Delta College. I have been working closely with Heather and Kong and Leslie, as well as Vivi, since the beginning of the DART program. So I've been helping all of the students here that are part of the dual enrollment with adult education. And it's been such a great journey and a really big honor to learn a lot about the adult ed world.
Thank you so much, Laura. Kong.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kong Nguyen. I started my career as a school counselor at a high school counselor for 7 years, and then transitioned over to the adult school realm for the last 6. Within that 6 year, I got the chance to meet Dr. Heather Malloy, and we kind of pilot the program here at the Stockton Adult School. It has been a journey, obviously, to start up this new program. I had experience before with doing the dual enrollment at the high school level, and coming into the adult school, I always wonder if this can be done at the adult school realm. And so, luckily, with the new bill that came out, the SB 554 in 2020, or obviously right during the middle of the pandemic, it gave us an opportunity for us to start something here at the adult school, and hopefully. Hopefully make it more larger than it is. So
Great. Thank you, Kong. And Leslie.
Hello, I'm Leslie Dahlquist. I'm a transition specialist at Lodi Adult School. I'm very excited to be here talking about dual enrollment. I see it as a really great benefit to our students. When I talk to my students about it, they are so excited to be able to call it killing 2 birds with 1 stone, getting your high school diploma and being able to start college as well. I think it's a great opportunity for our adults. So thank you for having me here.
And thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. Dr. Malloy, I love how you call the team here a family, and it's a great way to kick off our very first question. So we're going to be launching into this panel now, which is, can you please tell us about your adult dual enrollment approach and what compelled you to adult dual enrollment?
All right, yeah. So I will, I always bring this up and I'll bring it up again. It all started with Carol Hirota, and she was our co-director at the time for our consortium. And I remember very casually, she sent me an email and she's like, hey, Heather, look into this. Then she sent me the Senate bill and she's like, see if you can make this happen at Delta. And I'm like, okay. And so I want to say, so I know that the bill came into effect about October of 2019. And then this was about around, I want to say April or May of 2020. So when she gave me that, I kind of looked at it and I'm like, this is such a great opportunity for our students for those that may not think that they're able to go on to college or do college. It gives them an ability to say that they were able to do, take a class or two, to say, look, I am an accomplished college student. I can do this. And so with that, it took me some time to kind of do some navigating, kind of doing some investigating with other programs. Matt Morin, I had some multiple conversations with him. I believe at the time there was a group of folks that kind of started kind of a study session and kind of understanding and kind of investigating. But I knew right away that if we are going to implement this, we need to get buy-in, and I need to make sure I get the right people in the room. And that person is Vivi Sanu. Vivi Sanu, who at the time, and she can give you background, she had came on to Delta College. Her task was to develop and start from ground up the dual enrollment program that we offer here at San Joaquin Delta College. And she has been fantastic. And I came to her and I said, Vivi, I said, what do you think? You think we can do this? And at first she was like, let's do some research too, right? And let's see how we can navigate this. And I would love for her to also talk about this too. And so with that, we kind of looked at, what existing approaches that had she implemented and how can we kind of do the same for adult ed, not duplicating, not duplicate, but not designing something completely separate. Like, how do we immerse the two? Not only with her support, but we also had to get buy-in from not only the adult schools, we had to get the buy-in from the counselors. We also had to get buy-in from our, I would say our missions and records, because that's a whole process in the back end of how to navigate, how to code it, how to make sure that, we're flagging the students. And that's where I leaned very heavily on Vivi, who had navigated that system. And I think one of the major things that, and I'll allow my other team to speak to it, but that I really saw as an opportunity, not only to be able to have the access to college, but also the opportunity for those that are undocumented or non-residents, because this bill, and many of them don't speak to it, they don't have to show proof of residency. And it also allows them, and I have made presentations before, I call it building the equitable bridge. This allows our students that before would never have been able to even get to college and pay for college because they would have been stuck with paying it out of pocket. So this is also another way and means for them to get to college and have it paid for. And so that's something that I was going to fight tooth and nail in order to implement at San Joaquin Delta College. But I'm going to allow for any of my other fellow folks, Vivi especially, she was very much, I swear to you, once she got it, she was the one that kickstarted it. And so, like I said, May, and then I think it was by November of 2020, she had implemented it and we had opened the floodgates. And I'll speak a little bit more about the DART program and why I developed that, but I'd love for her to share a little bit of her thoughts and ideas on this too.
Thank you, Heather.
Welcome.
Well, I remember when Heather approached me with this challenge and she didn't know where to begin and how the program fit in at Delta. And I've been involved in dual enrollment for a long time, but it's the traditional model of the traditional students. And of course, the bill, SB 554, folds adult education right into dual enrollment. And it's like, okay, we don't need to reinvent the wheel for you. Let's see how we can bring all of those programs together. And ironically, a number of things came together at that time. It was charter schools, county offices of education, adult education, and high schools. And so it was the right time, really, right? And so I saw myself, and I still do, as a person that kind of removes barriers.
Yes.
That is like, I seem to do that all over the place here at Delta. It's remove barriers and make things happen for folks, and streamline processes. Because the minute it's difficult, people don't want to do it, right? And so I have a big technology head and background, and so that comes in really handy. Is nobody can tell me no, it can be done, because I know it can, and I'll do it myself. I'll get the applications and I'll get it set up. And that's actually what I did. Took all of the forms, automated, routed, and I route things to hundreds of counselors across the valley, parents, kids, their counselors, their principals, signatures. Nobody has to do paper at all anymore. And so I feel like I'm the glue, and you need that kind of person to kind of bring all the players together. And I want to say, underscore what Heather said about we are a family. It really takes a team effort. Everybody, from admissions, financial aid, fiscal services to waive fees for the students. Yes. I mean, it's just, the list goes on and on of how many people we touch every day to make things happen for the students. And so, yeah, it's taking the ideas and coming up with a workflow, automating it, getting buy-in from everyone, making sure everybody understands what it is that we're trying to do. We're not trying to add workload on anybody. We're trying to help students meet their goals. And I guess we've made it happen. Hi, Heather. Yeah, I think we're finally recognized, and there is support from the administration, but it has taken several years of a lot of work. But it's pretty neat to see where we're at.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I would say one of the things that it was such a benefit that I think has allowed for us to be so successful is because we also are a single community college district, and there wasn't too much red tape that we had to go through in order to implement this. It literally was having a conversation, doing an exploration, getting the buy-in, and then the implementation of a system that had already been technically in place that Vivi's team had put in. Or at the time, it was just Vivi, right? Vivi, it was just you. I mean, did you have one other person, or it was...
No. So we basically use, we just say, okay, adult ed is just another layer. It is not anything new. It's just another layer. We actually wanted to make it easy for students as well. There is no new website. You're part of this dual enrollment. You just select, not high school student, you select adult ed. That's it. So we just had to make it as simple as possible. and work through all of course, the fee waivers and all of that. But yeah, it's having open conversations with the right people.
Yes. Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Especially those that are about saying yes. And let's do it.
Well, that brings up a point that I want to, and I'm talking off of the script here in the slide, and of course I want to leave space for the whole team. But one thing we hear a lot from the field, and you've mentioned it several times, is the buy-in aspect. How do you get that buy-in? And I'm hearing some threads here, but I wondered for you what that might have looked like for buy-in when you reached out to counselors, to other partners and participants, and a part of this family that's called the team.
So
I
I'm
don't
gonna,
know. I think for me, I think passion is contagious. Excitement is contagious. So when you talk in meetings about your program or the success, you share what you're doing with data. You back it up with data. You're respected, and I don't know. That part hasn't worked out, at least on my end. And I don't know how you
so
feel there.
I would say for the adult ed world is I think what we faced, and I know we're kind of jumping to maybe question 4, but is when we were like, okay, let's implement this. I remember going to Kong and I was like, Kong, and I went to Leslie and I went to our other counselors for our other adult schools. And I said, hey, what do you think? And it took some time for people to be like, you know, and kind of there's that conversation of, do you think they're ready? Right. I mean, that's something that's really big conversation of, is like, how do you know this will be, or they will be successful in it, right? And so, and I'll definitely have Kong talk about it, but that's also another reason why the other piece to this success has to do with the fact that we also build out a mechanism to where we not only have, the transition specialists, the counselors, our staff at Delta College supporting them, that, it's this wraparound support that we develop the DART, and then you have instructors a part of it too. You have counselors a part of the Directing Adults to Right Track for Employment Learning community. So we know that when they were coming through, we had a mechanism to kind of somewhat track them, but also guide them through it. And that's a whole other conversation we can talk about, but I think that was the ultimate goal. And again, Kong, I'm going to stop myself so you can speak. I think, and I want him to describe what his thoughts were when we initially implemented it and what we kind of discussed. So Kong, if you want to share a little bit.
Right. Thanks, Heather. To be honest with you, you did.
Too.
I was 100% in. You did not have to convince me to buy in. As I mentioned in my introduction, I had worked the high school level for a few years, and that was always the norm, the dual enrollment. We had changed from a 4x4 block schedule, and there were so many. There was so much time for our students to take on more of a course workload outside of the high school realm. A lot of our seniors already had 250 credits and stuff like that, and they're like, "I'm still a senior. I still have to take these senior courses. What else can I do?" And then obviously working at the Stockton schools, Delta was the number one choice. It was the only choice at that time for them to do enrollment, and it kind of gave them a jump start on college. And leaving high school and going to Delta College with 30 credits, 30 units on your belt, that's a year under your belt that you don't have to worry about paying or how your parents paying for it. And switching to the adult realm, it's like, all right, this is a program I would like to have. And it just happens to be when I got into the adult school, this SB 554 came to effect. And it was just the perfect timing. I had obviously Heather was buying in. I bought in fully 100%, and let's run with this. And so for the last 5 or so years, we ran with this. We've increased our numbers exponentially. We started with like 5 people, I believe, Heather, the first semester or something like that.
Yep.
And now we're going on 185 people that's done dual enrollment in the last 5 years. It's
Even more.
going to go and more. Sorry. for my school.
Oh, yeah. From your school.
For
Yeah,
my
yeah.
school, I've kept numbers like the second question. I've kept track of all the students who've done the SB 554. So we're at the 180s now. And
Wow.
so we're hoping to get 200 by the end of this semester, and it's just gonna grow, and I can't wait to see how it's gonna be like in 2 to 3 years from this point forward.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then I know that Laura has done a significant amount of tracking as well. So initially, I think, we didn't have a mechanism to really track except for what Vivi had set up in her own system. But the fact that we kind of did like did a Google sheet and we had to update it manually. But then I know that Laura has done a significant amount of the work of checking in and making sure, and also working with the transition specialists. And I don't know if Laura, if you want to share a little bit about how you track the students, or Leslie, or anything you guys want to.
When it comes to the students here at Delta, I would say that one of the main things is during the assessment process is just really getting to know the student, making sure that we put on the note, or making sure that I put on the notes what adult school are they coming from? Is it Lodi? Is it Tracy? Is it Manteca, etc. Another of the things to track the students is what are the classes that they're enrolling for? Is it going to be the very first counseling 30 or 31 DART course? Is the student part of the SB 554 process? Do they still need the form? Has the previous counselor or transition specialist helped them apply for that part of dual enrollment process? So that's usually some of the things that we do during the first assessment intake, besides just learning about the student, getting to know them, a part of them, a little glimpse about their world. And then just, getting them enrolled and getting them all the services that they need at the very beginning. But when it comes to the tracking part, for sure, it's all about what adult school are they coming from. I also recently started tracking, how did they hear about DART? Friend, family, community. Those are some of the words that I've seen on some of the intake forms when I get to meet with them during the appointment process. But for sure, I have to hands down give all the credit to a lot of the adult school counselors and transition specialists, because they're really, really good at connecting the students. Seeing, hey, you know what, my student is doing so well, I think it's time for them to bridge over to Delta College and start taking classes. So for sure, I always hear things about Kong and things about Leslie and etc. So, I have to say that for sure they are big team players when it comes to this whole process, for sure.
Laura, thank you. I was listening when you were speaking, and when Kong, you were speaking, you had said when you first heard about the program, you said, let's run with it. And Leslie smiled. So I was wondering, Leslie, if you shared in that experience of let's run with this when you first heard about it.
Not so much. Not so much. I was a little skeptical, I guess.
That's okay.
Our adult students, sometimes they're struggling just to come to adult school and complete their diploma or work on, studying for their GED or HiSET. So I was not jumping in with both feet at first, but was willing to give it a try. And I think what really helped was the courses that were developed for the DART program. They are, I like to call them like introductory college courses. When I explain it to my students, I tell them it's like dipping your toe in the college pool, kind of getting to know college. So they're not intimidating. They're friendly. They're 1-unit courses, some of them, or 2-unit courses. And they're going to give them the tools that they need to be successful at college and to learn about the college and figure out what they want to do, what they want to study, what they're interested in, and really become a college student, see themselves as a college student. And I think it's a really nice segue to be able to direct them to these specific courses that can help them, and they've got the support of the DART program. So it has been great, and my mind was changed, and we've had a lot of students that have been really successful with it. So it's been good.
I'd like to add on there that when I first started, it was back in 2020, and I had just gotten hired during COVID. So I was only on campus for maybe like I don't know, less than 3 weeks before we
Yeah.
got dismissed to go home, which was
Yeah.
supposed to be known as a short period of time, but ended up being 2 years. I would like to say that Heather has always been a big, she's always been, you know, I've always seen her as a leader, and she's always been my leader. And she told me, hey, you know what, we're gonna do this, and you're gonna come on the boat and do it. And I was just, yes, yes, yes. You know, I just got this job. I'll do whatever you guys say. And I would like to be honest that I was never aware of how big adult ed was and is, and what it entails. What does it mean to be an adult learner, an adult returning to school? I think that a lot of people don't understand what that means. And when you really put and immerse yourself into this world, it's like when you open your eyes and you're like, shoot, like I've been living under a rock. Because adult learners come with so many different things. It's a whole different language. And it's been a pleasure working with this team for 4 years, and I am very thankful for everything that I've learned. And you know, it's been a crazy journey, and in very good and in very good ways. I've learned a lot, and it's just something that I never thought that I'd ever be involved in. So the fact that I've been involved with this for 4 years, almost 5, start in March of next year, it's just very eye-opening.
So I want to echo a couple things here and follow up on some of the questions that I had posted in chat and some of your responses, Heather. So first, I wanted to quickly highlight what you've already shared about the model. And I think it's important to do so because it is different. It is different from if you attended or listened in on the last dual enrollment webinar. So last time we spoke with Uta Mashka, who was at ERAE, and Crystal Robinson, who was at Sweetwater. They've since moved to different positions, but they went about structuring student supports helping to support student decision-making by just really investing in those conversations. So I want to say that I think Uta had tried initially to sort of approach the dual enrollment question as we're going to limit, right, what opportunities are available. And what they determined was that for their students, actually, the students they were working with, with enough guidance, could self-assess reasonably well. And so then the conversations became more about opportunities, right, rather than sort of just testing the waters as much. I can't say, I don't know what their success rates are, and we should really define that term, but from what I gathered, it worked pretty well over there. And your model, which I think is also really valuable, actually corresponds really nicely with other models that are designed for populations with oftentimes who have less lower levels of academic attainment or access to the same kinds of resources. Actually, the group at community college at Columbia, I forget what it is, CCRC, yeah, actually has some pretty good stuff on this as well. So I wanted to highlight that quickly. And then also wanted to sort of follow up on a question on one of your answers there. So you mentioned, so I asked a question about, well, how are you measuring success, right? And how are you measuring success, and what kinds of data are you collecting? And you noted that you're looking at retention. What else are you looking at? How do you know it's working? Like long-term, short-term? Yeah.
Okay, so I love that you're answering this, you're asking this question. I know Jessica, our data analyst, she was going to come in, as I call her, my data queen for adult ed. But so I would say it's like just now that we're really able to track the success. Beforehand, it was more like, hey, did they make it or did they drop out, right? But now we're starting to see the progression of them with degree, completions or certificate, completions. We're still working around trying to track whether they've, obtained a job. So those are things that we definitely be happy to dig in. That could be a totally different other webinar, and just looking at the data. Like, the data is pretty, I was totally shook when I noticed that and again, Jessica shared with me the data of what she saw, that our students that are transitioning from the adult schools, whether they're with the DART program or non-DART program, but compared to the traditional college student, they're outperforming 30 to 40%. And I believe a big definition of that, why I think that's happening, is because of the wraparound supportive services that we're providing, not only through Laura, through our through Leslie and Kong. It's like, no matter where they turn, they're gonna find support. And then whether it's within their school site or with Laura, but also the courses that they have. We were very specific to the instructors that we chose, because they've worked with disproportionately impacted communities. They've worked with adults that are returning back to school. They also have had background in working with previously incarcerated, justice involved. So they understand our community. And so what we've done is, because we've built this community, these students feel like they can achieve it. And so it's hard to show that in data, but if you were to come here and be a part of one of our DART events, prior to this webinar, just before this webinar, we hosted a DART study hall. We had a couple students come in and they started sharing their stories. There were tears, and they've only just begun. And so when you get to hear, so I would say, you can measure it through the quantitative data as well as the qualitative data. And so the qualitative data I could share with you right now is just hearing their life experience and how far they've come and what they've achieved through empowering themselves, empowering them to believe in themselves in these classes, to say, yes, I can, because these are students that have been told, no, you can't. And that's why we want to set them up for success through these courses. So, like, for example, our specific courses we, had I picked and choose, and I worked with all the counselors saying, okay, what do you think about this? So we have study skills for success for college. We have obviously the English 2A with support. We have we have a math class. We have counseling 30 and 31, which is very essential to our students, because some of them are still self-discovering. They're still trying to get a sense of self and who they are. We have counseling 8, interpersonal relationship and building and kind of understanding who they are and who they are with their children or their family or their coworkers or whoever. And so we do a lot of taking a step back, and yes, it's career exploration, but it's also self-exploration, self-understanding of who I am as I identify as a mother, as a wife, as a previously justice involved person. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but this is something I'm really passionate. I have a hard time, you can't quantify it when you see their faces, and you can, there is data for it, but when you hear their lived experience, that qualitative measuring is very powerful, impactful. And that's something that I love, and I don't ever want to lose sight of that, is hearing and the students that have made it to the other side, I guess you can say. And I would definitely will open up the floor for Kong or Leslie or even Laura or anyone want to share their thoughts, and when it comes to our students and I guess the definition of success. So
well, yeah, and actually, just for the record, like I love what you just said there. And a little bit, it's like that is an extraordinary, like yes, that is student story, student experience, the opportunities that they sort of share, that they identify that are now available, the sort of long-term ripple effects in their families. Those are all extraordinary measures of success, irrespective of whether you can, consistently or effectively, aggregate or quantify, right? So I'm really glad you raised that.
Leslie just reminded me something. Leslie, share it, girl.
So Delta just rolled out to the adult schools a data dashboard, and it's a website that we all have access to, where we are able to see all of the data that they're collecting. So it's available to all the adult school counselors and transition specialists. So we can go in from year to year and see lots and lots of data. If Jessica were here, she could go
Jessica's
more in
here.
detail. But
Jessica's here.
okay, perfect.
Just perfect timing, Jessica.
Sorry.
It's very exciting, because it's something we've been asking for many years, is, well, what happens after our students start community college? Are they finishing classes? Are they finishing certificates? Are they finishing degree? What's happening to them after they are over there? Because once they leave here, we don't know. So it's nice to have a collection of data where we are able to see their success.
You know, we've mentioned we've been hearing all this wonderful, the practices, the passion, the opportunities, and the team involved in the DART program. And I was wondering if we can get into a little bit more of some of the elements of the DART program. And Greg, we have prepared a slide about some of this, and if the team can talk about that too.
Sure. So, I don't know, did you want to share any more? Jessica, I'll have her jump in later. If you guys have any data questions, if we have room for questions, I'll have her share, because if you wanted to do your screen, she could showcase that data dashboard. But anyway, I won't go off script. Sorry, I apologize.
No.
So DART, directing adults to the right track for employment. Basically it is, yes, it provides, our adult learners to take that jump start, or as Leslie say, tiptoe into college, trying to get, their foot in the door. We definitely have, and it's growing, initially it was definitely a small cohort of like 7, 10, and now it's going, we just extended a classroom to 50 students for the English 33A class, Study Skills for Success. I know one thing we really worked really hard, and Kong mentioned that, was the high school diploma credits, like what courses can count for credits towards their high school diploma. I know with the math one, we're still working that out. Psych 2 doesn't, but it counts for SB 55 for the AB 1705. And again, the transferable math and English. But we also opened it up for any kind of returning adult that is looking at wanting to finish their certificate or degree. Maybe it's been a long time since they've, been to school, or maybe they've never accomplished their high school diploma or their high school equivalency. So that's something that, again, we open the floodgates of allowing our adults to come to school through SB 554. However, there was no mechanism to really kind of track them, but then also the importance of the high touch and the high support was something that I wanted to develop through the DART learning community. We kind of talked a little bit about the elements of, we host different events, different workshops, orientations, we want to walk them through the entire process. So anybody else want to share any more? Anything I missed, Laura?
I'll add to that a little bit. The DART program, I describe it to students as a support program, or like a support group for them when they go to college, because they're used to having that kind of small support group here at the adult school, because we're much smaller, and they have me to come and talk to when they have any questions or when they need anything. And so it's nice for them to also have that at the community college, because it is a big place, and students might get lost in the shuffle, especially adult education students that are nervous have some feelings about nervousness and about going to college. And so anything that might happen, any barriers that might come up, they're going to pull back. So it's nice for them to have a small group of support and contact people to go to. So when they do experience those barriers, they know somebody that they can go to, that they can call up or text or go to their office or email them, and they know that person's going to be able to help them with whatever they need. And then peer support as well with other students who are experiencing the same kinds of challenges and successes.
I love hearing that, Leslie. I put that in chat for you, that it is a supportive environment that you're also setting up. So along with the opportunities, some promising practices we've heard from the field in different areas, like within systems for justice, involved systems, that peer support is super helpful. And especially when we're looking at adults who have faced lots of barriers, maybe, to being where they currently are, having that understanding, having that support is helpful also from their peers.
I was going to add to that. I suspect too, like the message that it sends to your students to see so many people mobilized to support their success. I mean, it tells them that they have value, and people want to invest in them. I think it's absolutely lovely. So anytime anybody trips, there are like 4 people there to catch them. I think that's wonderful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we just hired on, now we have student workers that are, we've recruited as CTE DART ambassadors. So they're actually coming and attending different workshops and events. So then that's that peer-to-peer mentorship. So those that are current or past DART students, and they can speak to them at a peer-to-peer level too. And then Greg, do you want me to speak to the question about how we curated the
No. I was just wanting to say how great it was. Like that's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And also I would add to the peer support as well. And that is, I think, an important differentiator for some programs, right? You forget about that. I know that Chafee, or actually, I don't know if Chafee did that. I know that North Orange used to do something like that. And yeah, I think that's a really interesting practice. And so kudos to you for that too.
And Jessica, I know you came off mute for a second, so I want to give you a little space.
Yes, I came off mute because I was going to add on to what Leslie was saying. DART, it gives the students a sense of community, and we can see that in their success rates. As Heather mentioned, I'm the data person. So I look at their success rates, and they do far better than just students that come from the adult schools and go straight to Delta, because again, they have that sense of community and all these individuals that can come in and help them and give them advice on how to move forward. So again, they have that sense of community. They feel like they have a small group they can adjust, and they don't feel like they're just thrown into the college with no guidance at all, which is again very difficult when you've been out from education for so long and then you just go back in and it's a big world and you're really concerned of what am I going to do? Is this even for me? What did I get myself into? All those questions are kind of at ease when they join the DART community.
And to that, and I love that you just said that. And that is a really important metric, right? If you're thinking about, just sort of compare, it's same population, right? The same population with supports, without them. And in academic classes, right? I think that's really important to emphasize. The other thing I want to say really quickly to that is, I remember back in the day, at least Chafee would look at like percent or proportion of students who completed, credit-bearing, English class after transitioning or whatnot. And another, I think, really unique facet of your program is that you are able to get ahead of that, right, by curating courses as you have. And actually, I'd be really interested, just generally, I'm not saying right now, but to see like how their performance and engagement, how it persists, right, as they move into full transition, or even like the extent to which that they both begin to pursue studies at the college while also augmenting what the college is providing at the adult school, right? It's like these can actually go in tandem in different ways. So anyway, just wanted to put that out there as well.
I love how this conversation has been rich with intertwining the themes of, the importance of the collaboration, the importance of the students, very student-centered, very learner-centered, the importance of the data. So I think we've covered the top questions here. Oh, Neil, I'm sorry, questions, please.
Oh, I just had a remark. I've talked to a few consortia around the state, and they struggle to make the transition data, the dual enrollment data, pop up in their lunch board data. So they're meeting with their, researchers and institutional people, but it's been a struggle. And I don't know if anybody else, how did San Joaquin Delta overcome the data struggle to tell the story and show it up in their data so we could point to it and say, this is a great program?
So, Neil, you should know by now, if I see a problem, I'm going to fix it and I'm going to figure it out. And I will say, hey, if the system doesn't have something in existence that is showing the data, we're going to make it ourselves. And that's why we developed our own data dashboard internally, at least, that can track from the adult schools to, Delta College, those transition data. I mean, we're still definitely, I'll say this year is our first year that we're leaning in even heavier with and building the relationships to really be a little bit more impactful when it comes back to the adult schools and making sure we're tracking that transition, like the transition like activities. So we're working with the data techs and the transitions team to really try to make for them to understand, like if they're going out to an event that is a sponsorship or a college awareness or some kind of workshop, that they need to be tracking that. So it's not perfect, but we're also, I try to think outside the box. As you, like I said,
Right.
you already know I'm a person that likes to think outside the box. So.
And maybe a West Ed question would be, is there a student ID that tracks across, say, SARS, which counselors use, into MIS, into other college systems that you could like run reports to see like, hey, we worked with this student and they came from the adult school and now they're showing up in a credit course or a non-credit course or somewhere on campus?
I think if we go back to the very beginning, let's say Kwong's students apply to take classes at Delta, the very first application when they are identified as an SB 554 student, from that minute when that application is processed by my team, we tag them.
Yep.
They have an affiliation with Stockton Adult or Tracy Adult, so we know where they're at, right in their profile. They also have an acronym for DARDE or SB 554, or whether they're a CCAP student or non-CCAP student, all of those elements, and in their graduation date that go right in, then we're able to actually narrow down in reports about who are we talking about, which adult school, which student, are they there? In fact, that information is so specific and it takes human beings every day to put that in, is critical in everything. So if something goes wrong, we know that the data was wrong or something was wrong in the input. And in fact, we have processes in place that will actually now catch some of those mistakes. So immediately we know, oops, actually Kwong will write to me, goes, can I just push that form through? I just noticed I approved it, but the student said graduated last May. It is wrong, things like that. It seems very basic, but all of that, having men them behind it to do it right, and have it all in our PeopleSoft, in our case, then it allows us to pull it from Flexit and various other systems that we have to narrow down to the reports that we need and compare them across different types of student populations.
Thank you. I think you'll lead our data support group for the other colleges.
Heck yeah, Vivi's the best. But don't take her away from me. Or Delta.
Great. I've been so enjoying this conversation, and I want to just say that we're close to closing. Manda Lee thanks us all for joining, and then for those on the call, there's evaluation. But I want to leave us with one last question here, and that's the one, if you had a magic wand, what could you change about enhance adult dual enrollment? What would it be, if anything? Because it sounds like there's a well-oiled process going on here. Is there anything that you would suggest or that people should think about for that?
I have one.
Go for it, Leslie.
Actually, I have two. One would be, I would like to have more access, and I don't know if this is even possible, but a lot of times when I'm working with a student and we're doing their Delta application, we run into issues and we have to reach out to somebody to help us resolve those issues, like password resets, logins, things like that. If I could do that myself, that would be amazing. Because a lot of times I'm meeting with an adult student, and if we can't resolve the issue right then and there when they're here in my office, then I have to try to schedule them another time to come back, and that's difficult. So sometimes we lose days and weeks in between, while we're doing that. So I would love to be able to just have access to Delta's systems and be able to go in and reset passwords or do whatever needs to be done. And then also, these are my dreams. And then also to have a weekly on-site presence from Delta, so that if I'm not able to do those things, I know when somebody's going to be here, and I can say, you can come back on Tuesday, and we've got staff here that's going to be able to help you through that issue.
Right. And I'll say, and I don't think I clarified this, like, even though the folks that are in the room right now as our panelists, as our team, as our family, in reality, when it comes down to it, it's only myself and Laura when it comes to representing adult ed. And, and if we didn't have the team that we have now, again, we would not have been successful without Vivi and her team, as well as Jessica and the transition specialist. But yes, that would be, I would say, my part two that I would love. And if I had, again, the ability to get all the money in the world, I would hire, and Lauren and I both have talked about it. We would love to have 3 resource specialists, 2 academic advisors, and at least 1 dedicated counselor, because right now we don't have any of those things. So we're pretty strapped for capacity, but we're still doing it, but we're just growing even bigger. So just an FYI, we've just made a partnership with the Human Services Agency. So all CalWork students will now, that do not have their high school diploma, will be now funneling through and referred to the DART program, and then they would be eligible for the SB 554. So what that looks like, it could be, I will say our program is growing and growing. Vivi and I were both in a meeting with our vice president, and we informed him that herself, she's running the whole entire high school program for our entire district, just with her and 2 other staff members. So again, our teams are at capacity, and if we could have all the multiple millions of dollars, Myra with the chancellor's office, send us more money. Anyway, we could be a pretty awesome team, and be lead. And with that, I will say, I think we're leading the state in innovation and design when it comes to how we've implemented SB 554, because I haven't been able to see any other programs quite like this. And again, it would not have taken place without the people in this room right now. So I'll stop. I know you guys are at time. Anybody else want to add anything? Laura, Jessica, Vivi?
I just want to say to Leslie that I can give you a couple of phone numbers and emails, and you can get passwords reset really fast. You wouldn't get access for privacy and security from IT, but we can get you unstuck very, very fast.
Great.
Well, I really want to thank, the team here. Heather, I think you have a wonderful family on board that is really working to support our adult learners in this state. So thank you so much to all of you. Thank you to our guests for listening and hopping in here. Please feel free to reach out to Greg and I if you have any questions, if you need anything. And that, brings us to the close of our discussion today, but I hope we'll meet again to be able to discuss some more. And I'm going to pass it off to Mandalee really quick.
All right. Well, thank you, WestEd team and the DART team. I really enjoyed listening to today's session. You guys are doing phenomenal work. It's the work that we all strive to do, and that is serve our community. So well done, and thank you again. Thank you for taking your time this afternoon. And I hope to see you all soon, and have a great afternoon. Bye for now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
Thank you so much.
Everyone, great job. All.
Great job.